When fans talk about Ayanokoji, the conversation usually revolves around the same things. His intelligence, his manipulation skills, his ability to outsmart almost anyone. But there's one detail many people forget. Nobody is born that way. Nobody is born seeing other people as pieces on a board. Nobody is born hiding their emotions with such perfection. Nobody is born prepared to control nearly every situation around them. And that's exactly why there's such an important question. What happened to Ayanokoji before the story began? Because the more we learn about his past, the more we realize that it's far darker than it first appears. And perhaps that's the real reason he became the person we know today. At the beginning of Classroom of the Elite, Ayanokoji seems like nothing more than a strange student. Quiet, reserved, almost invisible. Someone who avoids attention whenever possible. But that image quickly begins to fall apart. Because the moment you start paying attention to his decisions, something feels different. Ayanokoji doesn't think like other people. He doesn't react like other people. And most importantly, he doesn't view human relationships the same way everyone else does. It's almost as if he was raised in a completely different world. And the truth is, that's exactly what happened. For a long time, many fans believed Ayanokoji was simply a genius. But the White Room completely changed that perception. Because the White Room wasn't an ordinary school. It wasn't an ordinary training facility. And it certainly wasn't a place where children could experience a normal childhood. It was an environment created with a single purpose. To produce perfect individuals. Not happy individuals. Not healthy individuals. Perfect individuals. And there's a huge difference between those things. Because in order to achieve that goal, nearly everything that normally defines childhood was removed. Friendships, affection, freedom, fun, emotional experiences. All of it was treated as unnecessary. The only thing that mattered was the result. And that was the environment where Ayanokoji grew up. But perhaps the most disturbing part is something else entirely. The pressure. Because we're not just talking about studying harder than other children. We're talking about living in a system where failure meant being left behind. Where only the best were allowed to continue. Where competition never truly ended. And where a person's value was measured solely by performance. Imagine spending your entire childhood inside a world like that. No breaks. No choices. No normal life. And suddenly it becomes easier to understand why Ayanokoji is so different. Because the White Room didn't simply teach mathematics. It didn't simply teach strategy. It reshaped the way he sees the world. And that leaves scars. Deep scars. There are countless moments throughout the story that reveal this. Ayanokoji often seems incapable of experiencing emotions the same way other characters do. Not because he can't understand them, but because he spent years viewing emotions as obstacles, weaknesses, variables, tools. And that creates a deeply tragic situation. Because behind the seemingly perfect student is someone who never had the opportunity to live a normal life. While other characters had friends, families, happy memories, ordinary experiences, Ayanokoji had training, evaluations, pressure, and impossible expectations. But there's something even darker. Because the more we learn about the White Room, the more we realize that it was never trying to create people. It was trying to create results. And that difference changes everything. Because a system focused only on results will eventually stop caring about the human cost. And Ayanokoji may be the greatest example of that. On the surface, he appears to be the perfect experiment. Intelligent, efficient, almost unbeatable. But beneath that image lies a question the story repeatedly asks. What remains of a person after their entire childhood has been turned into training? And perhaps that is Ayanokoji's real tragedy. Because most fans focus only on his victories. Very few stop to consider the price that was paid for them. Every skill, every strategy, every extraordinary ability, all of it came from an incredibly dark place. A place where failure was unacceptable. A place where being average was considered a flaw. A place where children were treated like projects instead of human beings. That's why whenever we watch Ayanokoji manipulate someone or outplay another student, there's an important detail that often goes unnoticed. These abilities didn't appear naturally. They were built, forced, shaped through years inside a system that sacrificed almost everything in pursuit of perfection. And perhaps that's exactly why his past is so fascinating. Because it isn't dark simply because of suffering. It's dark because it forces us to question something much bigger. Is it worth creating the perfect person if the price is their humanity? And that may be one of the most important questions in all of Classroom of the Elite. Because at its core, this story isn't just about a genius. It's about someone trying to understand what it means to be human after spending his entire life being treated as a tool. And perhaps that's exactly what makes Ayanokoji so different from every other protagonist. And what do you think? Do you believe Ayanokoji has truly escaped the influence of the White Room? Or will his past continue to shape every decision he makes until the very end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.